You're watching Pittsburgh Steelers Talk, and I've got bad news. We are losing to the lowly Browns report in a sub-battle this month. Only 104 new Steelers fans on Steelers Talk. The Browns report has 146. It's not a big gap, but that's embarrassing. This is the Browns we're talking about. Even God hates them. Let's get that changed. Hit the big red button and subscribe. That way you don't miss out on any new Steelers video. We have them pretty much every single day, plus a lot of preseason coverage for you guys. And we don't lose to the Browns. Subscribe right now. Tom Downey here for Pittsburgh Steelers Talk by Chat Sports. Looking at some trade rumors that are lingering out there for the Steelers, but also some news and notes coming out of training camp. First, the one that's maybe not so good. Benny Snell left practice today on Wednesday with a knee injury. He had it heavily wrapped in what I assume was ice, just a giant, almost like an air cast. Thing was huge on Benny Snell. The severity is not known. Probably not a good sign for him playing in the first preseason game. Mike Tomlin had no update on Snell after practice, so we wait and see what's going on with the Benny Snell injury, but this is one worth monitoring given the not great depth that already exists in the running back room for the Steelers. Let's move now to the quarterback, Mitchell Trubisky. Ian Rapoport said today that he is the likely starter. That's the route that is probably going to happen for this team, which makes a lot of sense, right? This has been the plan pretty much since day one when Trubisky signed with the Steelers. Although I will make note, we'll go more in depth on our next version of training camp winners and losers coming up later this week. The play of the quarterbacks has been interesting. Much has been made of the 7 shots drills, which Trubisky has been bad in. The entire offense, not very good. We've heard at various points, hype for Trubisky, hype for Rudolph, hype for Kenny Pickett. It's going to be Trubisky. I would still be shocked if Trubisky wasn't your week 1 starter. Doesn't mean he's going to be the franchise savior. I don't think he should be viewed as that either, given things did not go well with the Bears. And we can't blame everything on Matt Nagy, although we can certainly do it a little bit there. In the end, I think Trubisky is your week 1 starter. I think Mason Rudolph can be a fight for the backup role. And I still think at some point this year, which is what Ian Rapoport also said he thinks happen, we will see Kenny Pickett out there getting a start for this team. Maybe it's not till week 17, 18, but it is still somewhat unusual for rookie QBs to not start in the first season, even if it requires a puncturing of the lung for the starter for Justin Herbert to emerge. Whatever. I would be a bit surprised if there were 0 starts for Pickett, but I do think this is Trubisky's job in week 1. The Steelers quarterback battle has been all over the map. Trubisky's bad. No, he's good. Rudolph's the guy. No, he's not. Pickett, growth. He's not going to play in the preseason. It's all over the place, and I can't we'll actually get to look at, with all of our own eyes, what's actually going on at the quarterback battle. So what is your confidence level in presumed and assumed starter Mitchell Trubisky? Scale this for me from 1 to 100. 1 on the low end, 100 on the highest end. This is the pinned comment on today's video, so if the ad break comes here on YouTube, take advantage of it. Head down there and let me know your confidence level in Trubisky. Let's go to another potentially former Chicago Bear. That is Roquan Smith. Now, the Bears' star linebacker, as I'm sure most of you know, has requested a trade out of the Chicago Bears organization. And the Steelers Wire for today explored, hey, could the Steelers go trade for him? And we'll do the same. Because it's fun, but there are some buts. Smith has 1 year left on his deal at $9.74 million. Understandably so. He wants to be paid as the highest paid off-ball linebacker in the NFL, which makes sense. He is a run support machine. 12 tackles for loss, 18 in 2020. Couple sacks, 139 tackles for tackles, 163 on the tackles last year. He's been awesome. He's not a premier coverage player, but he is a top young linebacker in the NFL, just like Shaquille Leonard, who wants to go by Shaquille, was Darius, now wants to go by Shaquille, so we will respect that. Fred Warner as well. Would I rank Roquan ahead of either of those guys? No, probably not, but remember how contracts work, guys. The newest one of the premier grouping gets paid the most. It would have been the same if Smith had signed before those guys. Leonard and Warner would have gotten more. I think looking at like a 5-year, $100 million deal for Roquan Smith. And that is a lot of money to pay for a team that could use an off-ball linebacker, but has paid a lot of big-figure contracts on that side of the ball already. Plus, you got to trade for him, right? I think if you're lucky, and there's been some reports on the value of Roquan Smith because it is off-ball linebackers, and those are less valued these days. I think if you're lucky, it's a second-round pick, and we'll throw in Devin Bush since you obviously wouldn't need him anymore in Pittsburgh if you had Roquan Smith. The idea of pairing Roquan Smith and Myles Jack together is incredibly tantalizing. That'd be one of the better, I believe, off-ball linebacker duos in the entire NFL. But again, you got to factor in the cost of a trade from a fiscal standpoint and a draft capital standpoint. So get your votes in for me. Would you trade for Roquan Smith? Y for yes, N for no. Sound off in the comments section what you would do if you ran the Pittsburgh Steelers. To state the obvious, I think Roquan Smith is a fantastic player. In a bubble, in a world where you don't have to worry about the money or the draft capital, hell yeah, I'd love him in Pittsburgh. He'd be a great Steeler. But in the end, I think he's too costly for the organization. You have paid TJ Watt. You have paid Cam Hayward, who's probably due for a new deal some point soon if Pittsburgh wants to be aggressive from that standpoint. You've paid Minkah Fitzpatrick. You might want to try to pay Alex Highsmith, but probably not. I don't want to invest another highest paid player at his position, even if it's only for a year or two, at off-ball linebacker, plus giving up draft capital. Frankly, I'm going to need those draft picks a lot. You got some older players on defense, and your offense could still use, probably after this year, some more pieces. I think you've invested enough in defense that I think it's cost prohibitive in terms of managing your contracts and salary and draft capital and everything. But yeah, it is a fun idea in general. What's also fun is betting on sports. Do it with our sportsbook partner, BetUS. Chatsports.com/bet. Promo code Steelers125. Producer Sam Mayer goes, ooh, I love gambling. Very soft. Didn't think I heard him, but I did. Promo code Steelers125 gets you a 125% deposit bonus when you put down at least $100 at chatsports.com/bet. If you're like Sam and you love to gamble and make some money, do it on the preseason game. Steelers -3. I kind of like it, by the way. I think you got better quarterbacks than Mason Rudolph, Kenny Pickett, and Mitch Trubisky than Drew Lock and Geno Smith. Sam was a Broncos fan. He's abandoned his allegiance lately. He watched Drew Lock a lot. He knows he sucks. So bet on Pittsburgh with BetUS. 125% deposit bonus. Literally free money. Chatsports.com/bet. Promo code is Steelers125. To wrap up today's show, we're going to look at some trade ideas, or I should say candidates, from Fansided. They had 4 names that they think Pittsburgh should shop. We begin with defensive tackle Montravius Adams, who I love him coming out of Auburn. I was too high on him in the end. The pitch here was, you've got defensive line depth. You've got all these great pieces. Why not shop Adams? 2 things. You had depth issues last year. Maybe don't bail quite so quickly. And 2, I don't know how much you'll really fetch for him in a hypothetical trade. You do have pieces. Isaiah Loudermilk, Chris Wormley, Larry Ogunjobi, Tyson Alulu, DeMarvin Leal, both Davises, Carlos and Khalil, Doug Costin, who I like. I called him a sleeper. He's flashed some too. If you can get a trade back for any of those guys, I would strongly consider it, but that's probably closer to a wait how roster cuts go than right now. It would not be a trade candidate list without Mason Rudolph. And I do wonder if the quote-unquote hype and praise coming out around Rudolph from camp is Pittsburgh trying to get some assets back in a trade for Rudolph. I also know this. We know who he is, guys. He is a backup caliber quarterback. He's roughly replacement level. He does not drastically help any team as a starter. I have a difficult time seeing somebody offering anything more than a late day 3 pick for Mason Rudolph. But if Trubisky plays well and Pickett flashes, maybe that's enough for you. That also might not be the case right now for Pittsburgh. So make your predictions. Will Mason Rudolph be traded? T for trade or K for keep? This was the one of the 2 that I was most surprised by. Robert Spillane, who, of course, as we've discussed, is currently pushing Devin Bush for the number 2 linebacker role, a starting role. I would be shocked if they dealt Spillane. I think they might have more interest in dealing Devin Bush, given the cost to retain him with his current contract. I don't love Spillane, but I think he's your number 3 linebacker. And you know what? Maybe Buddy Johnson's ready. Maybe Mark Robinson's ready. Maybe you could even have Marcus Allen be linebacker 5. That's probably fine, but I also know this. It's not like Myles Jack and Bush don't have a history of injuries, even dating back to college. At that point, maybe you don't bail on your linebacker depth that quickly. Finally, Chase Claypool. And this one was interesting, especially in light of Chase Claypool still being a bit banged up. We'll go more in depth, but first, if you had to pick one of these 4 guys, you had to move one of them no matter what, who would it be? Type in MA for Montravis Adams, MR for Mason Rudolph, RS for Robert Spillane, or CC for Chase Claypool. Claypool, he's Chase Claypool, right? We kind of know what he is. He didn't have the touchdown production in 2021. He actually had more yards per catch. The offense was not clicking the same way it used to. He had some ill-timed, I'm going to call them gaffes, but by his own admission, top 3 receiver in the NFL. So how can you trade that guy, right? The reasoning actually makes some sense. You extended Deontay Johnson. You drafted George Pickens and Calvin Austin. I don't foresee a way in which all 4 guys are here 2 years from now. Somebody's going to get moved, and it's not going to be the young players, because I love Pickens and Austin. So I understand the trade Chase Claypool idea. I wouldn't do it this year. Maybe next year, if Pickens and Austin do take that step forward, it starts to make more sense. Unless a team makes you a significant offer for Chase Claypool, I'm keeping him. I would rather have too many cheap, young, talented receivers than not enough.